Thanks for joining us on today's edition of Lawyers Alert's Legal Literacy Series. I'm Omotayo Omotela Eunice, Media Officer for Lawyers Alert. And today we have a guest with us. She's going to introduce herself. Ma, thank you for joining us today. Our audience would like to meet you.
Thank you, Omotayo. Nice to have you today. Like you said, I'm Minka Falola Anoemwa. I work with the National Agency for the Control of AIDS, NACA. I'm a Deputy Director in the Department of Community Prevention and Care Services, and I lead Gender, Human Rights and Care Support Services.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It's a privilege to have you on today's edition. And today we are going to be talking about ending and decriminalization of HIV infection. So, in recent times, as part of the response to the HIV prevalence rate, several state parliamentarians have proposed the passage of laws that criminalize HIV infection and transmission. But it appears to be a general notion that criminalization of HIV infection will reduce or eliminate HIV in general. But it has been scientifically proven that efforts, resources and time used in criminalizing HIV infection can be better put into preventive measures and provision of goods and services to the tamed population. Without doubt, criminalization of HIV will threaten the gains already made, while also placing persons living with HIV and other vulnerable groups in a dire situation, thereby exposing them and making them more vulnerable. Ma, in a layman's language, so that our audience will understand better, can you please explain what criminalization of HIV infection is?
Thank you, Omotayo. I love the way the tone is set. Well, I think we also need to make some clarifications. But specifically to your question on criminalization of HIV infection, I think in layman terms it just means that if you knowingly transmit HIV to an uninfected person, you are a criminal. And or if someone, let me be generic, if someone knowingly transmits HIV infection to someone who doesn't have the infection, the person is a criminal. If you put it that way, it could be because, you know, it's not right. If you just take it to morality level, it is not right. What you know is dangerous to another person to do it to another person. But I do not think that is what it is, because the laws we have in the country are actually protective of people living with HIV and saying you cannot, because of their HIV status, discriminate against them, you cannot maltreat them, you cannot deprive them of what every other person should get because of their HIV status. Because science has also shown, like you said, that HIV infection cannot be transmitted. They said there is a direct, you pull your blood, you mix it with another person's blood transmission, mother to child, use sharing of a sharp object, and I think those are the basic mode of transmission. And the awareness is to make people understand and not do that. So the laws we have are actually to protect persons living with HIV, to take care of themselves, not to experience any discrimination, and to also make available what to help them to live positively with their virus, as there are no cures yet. But again, with the use of ARVs, they are actually getting to a very good manageable state. So the law we have in the country, as the HIV/AIDS 2014 HIV/AIDS Anti-Discrimination Act, actually protects people living with HIV. But there are circumstances that could actually be criminal, because we have a lot of people with all sorts of tendencies. And you know, there's something in law that they say where somebody's rights stops, another person's rights begins. And you might have a situation, I know in the early stages, I don't know if it's still around, and I think I had a year or two ago, where you have people who still believe that when they have sex with a virgin, that will cure them of HIV. Yeah, I heard stories like that. And they go ahead, they are positive, they go ahead and rape young people, virgins, and thereby transmitting HIV. I'm sure when you look at the clauses, that might be a situation that they try to protect others. But in terms of transmission in sexual acts, the HIV/AIDS Anti-Discrimination Act already put the responsibility of preventing HIV transmission at sexual intercourse stage to the responsibility of sexual partner. For instance, if I'm to have a sexual relationship with somebody, I'm supposed to ask that person his or her HIV status. And where I feel he will not or she will not be truthful, we are also expected to take each other to a test center and test together in terms of couple counseling. We also know that to a large extent, over 99% situation, condoms, there are protective barrier methods that can protect, prevent transmission. Individuals are encouraged to insist. Individuals are encouraged to be empowered to have those information and protect themselves. So we really need to unpack what we mean by criminalizing HIV infection. We do not expect that, except those are established. The law protects that you cannot, the responsibility for knowing the status of in a sexual relationship of a partner is on the onus is on the engaging sexual partner. For instance, somebody having relationship with a sex workers, we have huge program with sex workers that would make them know they need to protect themselves even in the act, either male or female of them, and to also know that if they go without barriers, they should know the HIV status of their partners. Also, scientifically now, we are not saying people should go ahead and have unprotected sex. For people who are on treatment, ARV, that's the drugs that are using to manage HIV, has actually developed to a state that where they adhere and they treat themselves well, for so many people, they become untransmissible. They won't be able to transmit the infection again as long as they are on treatment. It's just that they have to continue to be on treatment, whether they can test it, they can see it's positive or not. They have to be on treatment to continue to keep the soldiers in the body active to fight the virus. So at that stage, they are unable to transmit, and that is why we say people should go and know their status. When they know their status, adhere to their treatment, keep to their treatment, and then they will not be able to transmit. Except all of those are established. I know there are some states that have some clauses that are uncomfortable, and we are working with them to check what are those clauses, what exactly are they pushing, and be able to intervene appropriately such that we don't have laws that will criminalize HIV infection.
Thank you so much, Ma. That was really an in-depth explanation of what HIV infection criminalization is. Ma, I would like to ask you, do you think laws and policies that criminalize HIV infection should be put in place in our society?
No, I cannot sit at this point and say we should criminalize HIV infection.
Okay.
And support it in any ways, and the government of Nigeria will not support it, and the work we're doing will not support it. And What we do is to ensure people know about HIV, people know their rights, they protect themselves, and they don't find themselves in such situations most of the time where you have transmission like that are usually in situation of rape. And some of the things we are also doing is to ensure that where there are rape cases, there's what we call post-exposure prophylaxis, where immediately within 72 hours of such, the person gets a PEP, and then it stops the transmission of the virus. And that is available. It's available in health facilities. I know a lot of people that are doing gender-based violence work, that they ensure that for those who have been raped, because they don't know the HIV status of the people who raped them, they ensure they give PEP as part of the protocol of care of GBV. We have that ongoing. But in such situation, it's not HIV infection. When the person, the rapist, is caught, it's not the HIV transmission, it's not only the HIV transmission that is criminalized, because it's actually a crime to have anybody against their will. So the crime is actually rape. Plus, now if there is an infection, if the person is positive, but what we do is to even ensure, because care is already available, to ensure that people get care immediately. And that is why part of the campaign is when people are raped, they shouldn't, and usually we know when people are raped, they are raped by close people, maybe their family members, maybe their caregivers, their teacher, that they don't keep quiet because there might be need for PEP. We also have...
Ma'am, what is your advice for states that passed law that criminalize HIV infection and those who are just embarking on this same exercise?
It's not an issue of advice. We are taking up activities to look at laws that are not positive to the work we do to end HIV by 2030 in Nigeria as part of the global community. So we are engaging with them, and we will look at those laws. Laws as soon as they are passed, they can also be reviewed. So we'll be engaging with them to check the clauses and towards the review, and that's where we're happy with what Lawyers Alert is doing and all our partners on this. We actually commenced some processes to look at the laws we currently have in the country to see how positive they are for the work we do, and we've done supportive supervisory visit to some states, and we'll be looking at those states in particular where they already have laws that are not positive, where they don't have laws at all. We have, I think, 18 states that have domesticated the 2014 HIV/AIDS Anti-Discrimination Act, and we'll be working more closely with them to ensure that we look at those lines and we are able to support appropriately. And beyond that, to also raise awareness for people to know they have rights, and the law of the country will protect their rights, and they will be able to, where their rights are, anyone infringes on those rights, they have access to justice. We are building capacity around our players, capacities of our players to be able to do that, to popularize the laws, to write it in a simple language that people would understand. And we have a number of good cases that are domesticated and are coming up. People who have complained to us, reporting through our 6222 call center, 6222, that probably in their place of work, they are not, their rights is infringed upon because they are HIV positive, and we intervene. We work collaboratively with lawyers of Lawyers Alert and COLA, I used to know of, and National Human Rights Commission, to get those issues resolved. We have a number of cases that have been resolved. So people should come in, work with our community members who are in the community, network of people living with HIV, ASHU, an association of women living with HIV, and other players, young people living with HIV. We have all of those stakeholders, and you can call to that call center, and then the appropriate persons will stand up to support to get your rights entrenched. Usually there are resolutions before they get to court, and where need be they get to court and the law is used. So for those states where they have such laws, we are engaging with them for a review and for also implementation where the laws are positive, to ensure that no one suffers and people can come out to access life-giving treatment of antiretroviral therapy and all other supports that come, the package that comes with with care of people living with HIV, and live meaningful lives, whether they are positive or not.
You have heard it from her. I'm very sure you've picked one or two things. Kindly note that you have rights, and if in any way your right is being infringed on, feel free to speak up. Feel free to request for justice. Layers Alert is always here, and we want you to always follow us to know more about our efforts in decriminalizing HIV infection. Thank you so much, ma'am. We really appreciate you for joining us today, and our audience too, they're saying thank you. Join us next week for another edition of Layers Alert Legal Literacy Series. For now,